According to Danny Sheehan in his latest podcast interview with James Iandoli on the Engaging the Phenomena podcast, Danny mentioned that the United States government, basically the UFO legacy programs, right, the crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs, are in possession of at least 2 intact and fully operational UFOs. I got to be honest, that's the first time I've ever heard that. The idea that they're intact, I've heard, but not fully operational. And that's interesting. So let's dive in and see what this is all about. If you're new to the channel, y'all, and you like content like this, please hit that subscribe button. I put out a new video every day, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I do not miss a day, y'all. Please hit that like button, vetters. That really helps out the videos. So thank y'all so much for the support there. And of course, comment down below. What do you think about these latest comments from Danny Sheehan? Amongst some other comments we're going to look at. All right, so full transparency before we jump into these clips. A few things. One, I have had James Iandoli from Engaging the Phenomena on my podcast. I'll put a link in the description so you can check out that interview. It's awesome. I've also had Danny Sheehan on the podcast once before. I'll put a link to that description, and I'll put a link to that interview in the description as well. And third thing, lastly, I reached out to Danny's people on Friday, I believe it was, who handles his interviews and stuff. And Danny's going to be coming back on Vetted. So I'm very excited about that. Now, I haven't heard back from the second question I asked him, which was, would they be willing to do a 2-parter? Would Danny be willing to do a 2-parter? Meaning, I would do an interview with him just like I did last time. But then the second part being he would come on Vetted to do a live stream Q&A with y'all, right? With the vetters. So fingers crossed, I'm going to be doing my best to make that happen. He's definitely going to come on for an interview, but I'll see if I can get him for a live stream as well. So there we go, because I want to ask him a lot of stuff. I love speaking to Danny, okay? I do. That is the truth. So, and he said some things that I found quite interesting in this interview. So enough of me blabbing. Let's take a look at it. So let me just play this clip and then we'll discuss it. I've got 2 clips, by the way. This is number 1.
Let's say this UFO legacy group has been targeting UFOs to down them.
I do.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's part of the whole crash retrieval aspect.
Yeah, right. It's not exactly retrieval.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, some cases they say that crashed and or landed was a statement that I heard from both Dr. Eric Davis and David Grush.
Mm-hmm.
And the cases where the craft seemed to be completely intact.
That's right. Well, that is true. They're in possession of at least 2 craft that are completely intact and operational.
And and that gets me to thinking about what Dr. James Lukatsky had disclosed in the book with George Knapp and Colum Kelleher, Initial Revelations, which they released, I believe, was last year.
Yes.
That yeah, it's so funny. It's such an interesting note that was overlooked, and it was pointed out to me by Grant Cameron. Was that it's so easy to overlook because we're thinking about this craft, but James Lukatsky says in the book that he was in a meeting with a U.S. senator was present. While they're talking about this completely intact craft. So that would mean that some U.S. senator was briefed on that.
That would be Harry Reid.
Correct.
I love James waiting for Danny to say something or acknowledge it or whatever. I get that feeling. I totally understand James there in that moment. As an interviewer. Yeah. Let's continue and then I'll discuss. There's quite a few things there that are interesting.
Correct. And, unfortunately, since he's passed.
Yes.
And that's something that he was not able to speak to himself directly, at least. But it would make sense that's why he took this so seriously.
Yeah, that's right. No, that is true.
Because,
And then you can be quite sure that Senator Reid shared that with Senator Stevens, Ted Stevens, and with Dan Inouye. You know,
right.
that Harry Reid shared that direct knowledge with them.
So I got another clip. So let's break this down a little bit. So first, James starts talking about, right, shooting down these craft or whatever, right? That has been discussed a lot. And then retrieving them, and then it becomes, well, it's part of the program. And then Danny makes kind of an interesting comment. Retrieval's an interesting word, right? Because if they're gifting them to us, it's not really retrieval, I guess, in that sense. Or they're coming straight to us. I don't know what that entirely implies, but I do want to ask Danny about that when I speak to him, I just find that interesting. But also, again, at least two intact UFOs, operational. Okay, I have not heard that before. In fact, I've heard the opposite in the sense that we don't know how they work, we don't know what's going on, how they perform, right? But that's also, I guess, not the full truth, too. I have heard other stories, right? For instance, Bob Lazar and other people who have witnessed the crafts actually in operation. Now, I'm not talking about craft that we then reverse engineered and have. I don't know about any of those sorts of craft, right? That stems from like Michael Herrera's type of stories and things, right? I'm talking about craft that came from another non-human intelligence, right? Another advanced civilization, or whatever, however you want to describe them. Aliens. Let's just, for lack of a better term, that's what everyone would understand. Aliens, right, have left us two of their craft, at least intact and operational. So I don't know about you, but I got a bazillion questions, right? How do we know they're operational? We've seen them operating. To what extent? How long can they stay operational, right? Like for us, instance, you got a gas car or even electric vehicle. It has a lot of parts that need to be maintained. A car doesn't just need gas to run. It needs oil. It needs this, that, the other, right? All kinds of fluids and parts and things to keep it going and maintaining at all times, which is why we have an entire, automobile support system, right? Mechanics and maintenance and tires and oil changes and everything else, right, that goes along with it. Even for electric vehicles, there is maintenance, software upgrades, battery replacement, whatever, parts, tires, wheels, right? These things. So these craft, even our airplanes, right? It's all the same. Every craft we have, anything from a boat to flying to underwater, right? Everything has a bunch of parts that need to be maintained, and it needs a fuel. So these craft, is that, right? Like, how long can they stay operational? Can we operate them? Because if we can't operate them, how do we know they're operational? Do they operate on their own? Are they remotely operated? I don't know. I have a lot of questions. Just so curious. But I got to admit, Danny seems so sure, right? He seems certain. He's saying it like, what he had for dinner the night before. I do. I find that fascinating. So two craft, fully intact, operational, at least, right, that only the United States government is in possession of. And are we talking about United States government retrieval programs? Because remember, supposedly there are other crash retrieval and legacy programs, right, from from private companies, right, advanced aerospace companies. And other branches of the government supposedly have these different programs, right, too. So I don't know. I find that very interesting, right? But the fact they say at least two, meaning we know two for sure. What two from when? Like what dates, what events? What is this from? And have these craft ever left where they're stored? Have they always been in one place? Are they stored together? I find that just fascinating. And when he says two fully intact and operational, at least, right, is he saying, well, we have others that aren't intact nor operational, right? That's interesting. And how would you know it's intact? The reason I ask that is, if you don't know what it's originally supposed to look like, how would you know it's intact? How would you know it's not missing a piece? Now, granted, you may say, well, you look at it and it looks fine. Yeah, but how do you know? What if it had other things that were floating around it that are part of it that aren't attached, right? But they somehow stay in its orbit and they're not there. But we don't see that, so we think it's intact. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think we can fully know it's intact without knowing the full source of what was built like or intended to be, right? You'd have to find the maker of that UFO to actually know if it's fully intact. Maybe he just means, from our perspective, it looks intact. If that makes sense. Again, these are just nuances, little details. I don't know. Just asking questions. And again, the operational standpoint. Okay, it's operational. Again, how do we know that entirely? I'm curious. I mean, I am fascinated by this. I got to be honest. When I was watching this interview again, because I had already kind of covered this on my live stream the other day, I was like, wait a second. This slipped by for a lot of people. And maybe I'm off, and this has already been discussed a lot, but this slipped by. I hadn't heard this. This is big news, if I'm being honest. For me. It may not be for you. I don't know. But I find that fascinating. Right? And James brings up that Eric Davis and David Grush have said this. Right? One, we know, well, David Grush has not confirmed it, but Eric Davis has claimed to be one of David Grush's 40 witnesses, right, that he testified to. So I haven't, Eric Davis doesn't do interviews, so I haven't heard him say that. So that's interesting that Eric Davis has said that as well. Is that where David Grush is getting it from? Clearly, it must be. Pardon me. And how many other people know about this? Right? Look, James also brings up something that was talked about long ago. I mean, I guess maybe within the last year or so, that James Lukatsky came out and Colm Kelleher, right, on Jeremy Corbell's podcast with George Knapp, weaponized because of a book they were releasing, and they talked about a craft that they had broken into, I think was the correct term. I'm trying to think of the exact term they used. Pierced the craft. I forget. There's another word I'm trying to think of. Breached. I think that's the word they used. They breached the craft, right? So they got inside. How? I don't know. With a power tool? I don't know. What, you go to Home Depot and get a power saw? I don't know how this works. But they did something to breach this craft. Now, the confusion lies, if I remember correctly from that story, James is saying, they spoke to a senator, right? They had a meeting about this with a senator, Senator Harry Reid, and spoke about it. But again, they just spoke about it. They didn't show Senator Harry Reid this craft. This is just James Lukatsky saying that. And it's never been confirmed if James Lukatsky and Colm Kelleher have actually seen that craft, or they just know about it being breached. Another story to them, right? That they then tell that story to someone else. Is this one of those craft, these two? And by breaking into it, is it still considered intact? I mean, it's fascinating, right? This is all fascinating to me. So just questions. And, yeah, I mean, if that's true, holy shit, right? Like, I mean, I'm blown away. I got to know. I got to know about these two intact craft that are operational. That's all that needs to come out. Just bring that out on a flatbed on a press conference. Let's go. That's all the proof you need. And show it operational, like it disappears and then reappears somewhere else or does something crazy, right? Like instant disclosure. So I don't know. All right, let's take a look at this next clip.
All right, and because you also mentioned somebody had hands on a craft, like those type of witnesses are participating, right?
That's right. Well,
they want to, right?
They want to, but they're deeply afraid because they're convinced. For example, we've had direct face-to-face meetings with Mark Warner, who's the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. He wants to have us and others provide to him, people who've absolutely laid their hands on an extraterrestrial spacecraft in a context and in a setting that makes it absolutely indisputable that that's what this craft is. And those are the people that are the most frightened about coming forward because they believe that the present schematic of witness protection, whistleblower protection statutes that are in place don't really protect them.
So I love this clip, right? So, and I agree with Senator Mark Warner. That's the only thing that we need to, as far as testifying, in my opinion, to really move the needle. Everything else would be, supportive. But think of it this way. Every other story that's not, I touched the craft, I'm in the craft, I touched an alien, direct firsthand knowledge like this, experience, right? A witness, right? Anything other than that is, imagine a table set for you to eat. You've got a tablecloth, you've got a plate, you've got silverware, right? Fork, knife, spoon, all laid out perfectly. Soup spoon, salad fork, right? All the silver, all the fancy silverware, right? Your butter knife, a little butter plate. You got your water glass, your wine glass, your cocktail glass, like all the different glasses. You got all these different things, right? What are you missing? The meal, the meat on the plate, the wine in the glass. That's the craft, and that's all we need, right? It's nice to sit down and get ready for dinner, right? Okay, I got everything ready, everything I ordered, I my shit's here. Okay, everything's coming. Okay, everything's set for me to enjoy this. The only thing I need left to enjoy it is the thing on the plate, so I can enjoy it. I can have my steak knife and my fork, but until I get that steak, I'm stuck here. And that's where we are. We're just stuck here with our napkin and our shirt right here, and we're just like hitting the table like, bring the damn food already. That's where we're at. That witness, that person who's touched the craft and willing to come forward and provide the evidence of it as well, that's the meat and potatoes that we need. And anything less than that is just us getting hungrier. And what happens the hungrier we get without the food? We get hangry, right? Because we need that sustenance. That's why we're here. Stop bullshitting around. Bring my food out already, right? And then basically you just have people from the kitchen or the staff coming and say, it's going to be just a few moments, sir. This happened, just give us a moment, right? That's basically what's happening. So how long can we do that for? Now, let's try to put ourselves in another perspective now, right? That's one perspective, right? That's Patrick talking from one perspective. But let's go to another perspective. Now let's imagine you're this whistleblower, right? Listen to what Danny said at the end there. These people are scared to come out because of the whistleblower protections that are in place. And I can understand that. All right. So from their perspective, I get it. And that's the issue with this whole topic. There's just many perspectives. And we all need to just understand each other. So I'm not mad at anyone that's like, damn, bring out the meat and potatoes already. I get it. I'm there too. But like an adult, I can also put myself in the shoes of others. Now, does it mean I'm happy? Right? I can empathize with the chef in the back who's having issues with this, that, the other, and my food's not coming out. But at the end of the day, I'm still hungry. None of that changes that I need that food that I'm ordered, I paid for. You know what I mean? Like, I'm waiting for that. So it's just different perspectives. Right? So I can understand that perspective from the whistleblower. So my solution is, fuck it. Let's give that whistleblower everything he's asking for. You want this protection, witness, relocation, and that. Let's just give you everything you're asking for to see if you'll come forward. Because if you give them everything they're asking for and they still don't want to come forward, right? Let's just meet them there. Oh, that's what you want? Cool. Here it is. Now what? Let's give them the protections. And if they still don't come forward, then it's bullshit. Because then at that point, it would just be excuses. But this reason, I understand. It's a valid one. These whistleblowers are concerned about their family, their friends, themselves, people around them. Who knows? Humanity, whatever the reasons are, I get it. Right? But so let's just give them those whistleblower protections if that's their main concern for coming forward, right? They're fearful of that. Because Danny didn't say, well, they're concerned about humanity and catastrophic disclosure. And that witness isn't worried about that, apparently. All they're concerned about is their own safety, and I get it. That makes total sense. They're concerned about their own safety, their family's safety. I get it. So let's take care of that for them. And let's go. There'll be no more excuses then. So I do support legislation for these whistleblowers. I support legislation for UAP disclosure from the government side, right? Because everything Danny's doing right now is, I really appreciated his push to try to get a question in the presidential debate. I do. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the movement he's trying to make in a legal standpoint, right, through the government. We need that fight too. There's many fights on different fronts that need to happen. That's one of them, right? Everybody can't do everything. That's all it is, in my opinion. Different positions on the field, right? Everyone's got what they're supposed to do to make this play work. It's that simple, right? The center doesn't throw the ball. He hikes it to the quarterback who throws the ball, right? We all have our own things with it. What we, supposed to do, our position. So my dog is having a dream. I don't know if you can hear him whining in the back here. Mac! So anyway, look, I'm going to put a link in the description to this interview with James Iandoli and Danny Sheehan. It's awesome. I recommend watching it. James is a great guy. Danny's a great guy. And I look forward to having Danny on soon, right? And being able to dive into some of this and other things. So enjoy y'all Sunday. Real quick, a channel update. The Phoenix Lights video is sort of our big case that I did through our Discord server that I announced at the beginning of June. I haven't forgot about that. That's still coming. It is coming on July 4th. That video will drop. So July 4th, our Phoenix Lights case that we've looked into is dropping July 4th. And all that means is every month in the Discord server, people get together and help me research a different case for a month, right? So the first one we did was just something familiar that everyone knew about, Phoenix Lights. And there's a channel in our Discord server where people just put a bunch of information, research, right, different things. And I'm taking that and making a video about it, right, and giving credit to Discord, right? And in that video on July 4th, when we drop it for Phoenix Lights, we announce July's next month. So it's going to be just a few days behind on announcing July's, but we have a great case to look into on the next one. And I'm really excited to announce that in that video. So look forward to that. Something you've never heard of and super cool. So anyway, look for that video on July 4th. Guys, I have a lot of great stuff coming in the next month. 2 months. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe now. I've got a lot of great shit happening. It's going to be a lot of great content, a lot of great interviews, a lot of great videos, a lot of great stuff coming out over the next couple months. Yes, couple months. I'm planning that far ahead for a lot of these things. So, yeah. And thank y'all so much for the support. Honestly, the vetted community is awesome. And I'm so happy it's growing. I'm so happy to hear from so many of you that you support and appreciate this community right back at you. And y'all are the ones that really make it happen. So thank y'all so much there. And yeah, just thank you also to the mods, okay, who moderate our live chats when the videos premiere. They also moderate in Discord too. Like, a lot happening. It's not easy. Thank you to them very much for what they do. They are also a huge part of Vetted and making that work. So thank y'all. That's it. And, you know, I never really officially said thank you for us reaching 25,000 subscribers, actually. It just sort of went past because we had all this stuff happening and I just never got to address it. So I do want to say thank you to everyone who subscribed. And our next goal is, you know, I don't know the next goal. 30,000, 50,000. Let's just go for it, y'all. All right. My goal is to just make good content and hopefully people come to it. All right. So anyway, all right, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you guys on tomorrow's video. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all.